We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Align, and it is the podcast for chiropractors, where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Welcome back. Glad that you're with us for another episode of Wake Up Align. I'm here with my friend Tom Owen, and today we're going to talk about appreciation and feedback. And Tom, your dad had a rule that he taught us years ago. He said that anything that you take for granted, you're going to lose. You're at risk of losing. And that applies in all areas of your life. You take your family for granted and you focus completely on your career, you're going to lose that family. You take your career for granted and you focus all your time on your family, you're going to lose that career. So this is a principle that I think a lot of people know intuitively, but probably haven't been detailed or analyzed. And I thought today might be a good time to do that because you and I are getting some feedback. We're getting some appreciation that I hope that we can talk about a little bit later in this episode. How I think this looks in the chiropractor's office. Chiropractors typically work with a certain type of case in their office. Most chiropractors are working with neuromusculoskeletal problems. We have practitioners who do a lot of work with visceral conditions and overall body health and optimum performance. I mean, there's a lot of avenues in this thing called chiropractic. But for the most part, you're getting a lot of low back pain cases, you're getting sciatica, headaches, that kind of thing. Now, if you have a long career in this vocation, you can sometimes take for granted the impact that you have on these types of cases. Not only is it something very routine for you, but it's really not that challenging for you as a practitioner. So it gets kind of routine. It gets somewhat robotic. You get a bit disinterested, and there's a danger in that. Danger number one, you may not be paying attention to the details like you should. Just because a case doesn't appear complex or it's not challenging to you, doesn't mean that there isn't risk inherent in that case. Every case that you evaluate needs to be seen objectively and analyzed thoroughly. You can see 1,000 low back pain cases, but you take that 1,001 and you take the wrong approach, you do the wrong thing, you could do some damage there. So we have to be intentional about how we approach even cases that we've seen a lot of. We can't take that for granted. We shouldn't be taking that for granted. The other way I think this is dangerous is that may be the 10,000th time you've seen that case in your office, but that's the first time for that patient that you're working with. And you need to put yourself in their shoes. See, every healthcare challenge has put that person on a journey. And people get to a point in that journey where their health is elusive, or they're not able to do or perform the way that they want to. And it gets to the point where it begins to take over. And it now affects not only them physically, it has an emotional toll, it has a mental toll, it affects their relationships, their work. And so this very uncomplicated case to you, this case that you could have seen a lot of times before, is a case that for that person might be their very first go around with it. And it's not insignificant to them. It may be easy for you, but it's challenging for them. And here's how I know that. If they could fix it themselves, if they could manage it successfully themselves, they would have never stepped foot in your office. By default, them coming to your office, sitting down and talking to you during a consultation going through your report processes, they are telling you through their actions, this is a big deal for me. People don't do that for minor problems, for irritants, for nuisances. Now, they'll tell you it's a minor problem. They'll try to smoke you up and say it's just an irritant. But if they're sitting down there and they've gone through your paperwork and all they're serious about this. This is something that is impacting their life. And it's not just impacting their life where they are today. It's impacting their life tomorrow. And that's the big concern. That patient's more concerned about their future than they are about their present. Haven't you found that there are people who will tell you they've been dealing with a problem off and on for a decade or 2 decades, but now they need something done about it? Now it's got to be fixed. Now they're not telling you it's slowing them down, and they're not telling you there's a lot of complications or other things going on. They're telling you it's about the same that it's always been, and yet this person is sitting in your office wanting something done after dealing with it for 10 or 20 years. You know what's changed for that person? How they see their future. Their future has gone from something that they thought was fairly certain or certain to something that was uncertain. And that uncertainty is related to the health trouble that they're dealing with. You need to know where you stand. You need to not take that journey and that moment and that uncertainty in their future for granted. It doesn't matter that you've seen this same type of condition multiple times a year over the multiple years that you've been in practice. What matters is that person's experience, that person's journey, and that person's future. You do not want to take that for granted. There's another area how this plays, and I want to give you a minute here, Tom, to give some feedback on what we're hearing, but this is really important to me. There's another area where this shows up, and that's the chiropractor receiving appreciation and gratitude for the work that they've done. Fortunately, there are a lot of very humble people in our profession, and they see themselves as an instrument of God and someone put in a place or a position to help people get back to what is a natural birthright for themselves, which is their health. And I think sometimes they overplay that. They are somewhat dismissive about people giving them praise and feedback and appreciation for the work that they've done and the results that that patient achieved. You don't want to take that for granted either. That communicates to the patient that it wasn't that big of a deal. And again, it may not be a big deal for you, the doctor, but that can mean everything to that patient. You need to understand where they are with that feedback. You need to understand the relief and the gratitude that they're experiencing. Maybe it was an easy case to manage. Maybe it was one of the easiest that you've ever encountered. Great. But accept the appreciation, respect the gratitude, and receive it all in the spirit that the patient is offering you. Don't take that for granted. Don't ever lose sight of the impact of the results that your patients achieve. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that is not a big deal. What you do for that patient is far more important than what you do to the patient, and it's far more valuable. That was really on my heart today, and I wanted to talk about that as we begin to talk about where we are with the feedback and the praise that we're getting from people. I'm very humbled by what people are sharing with me, and I know that you're getting it as well. So in the time that we have remaining, I'd like to just try to talk that out and share that with our audience.
Well, before you jump into that, I almost want to give a kudos to something that we call innate.
Okay.
Right? it wasn't a trick to everybody. If you see it now and you go, oh, now I see why they started their podcast called Wake Up Aligned, because now, our brand is aligned, but it was more of the innate was resonating with us. You remember you and I have all these phone calls, right? And where we have these moments of just connection. And I remember reaching out to you and said, Shannon, I said, do you think there'd be any value of doing a podcast? I didn't even know it was called, we would call it a podcast. Right. I was like, what do you think about weekly, just you and I,
two guys sitting
at the kitchen table, and remember some of your most transformational moments in life, some of your most impactful moments of your life. Sometimes some people have just, memories, crossroad moments of their life happened at talking at the kitchen table. And that's what we wanted this to be. We wanted to operate from a position of innate. So it might be surprising to some of the listeners to know that you and I normally do not know what we're going to talk about on any given show. Mm-hmm. And we certainly don't come here with any notes, right? This is just two guys talking and what's on our heart, what's on our innate of and that's where this idea came from. And it's been, I didn't know if it would have any value.
I didn't either.
Right. I said, I just wanted to, I personally had said to you, I want to figure out a way to where I can connect with every member every week, as if I walked through across their threshold and sat down at their kitchen table. What could we talk about that that could possibly impact their life and inspire them or direct them or empower them or hold them accountable and just have some conversations. And I think it was a bigger need than I saw coming. And that's been the feedback. That's what you're wanting to talk about, is just that feedback that we've gotten. It's been a lot more than what I was expecting. And I'm so thankful for it because, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. Not like we have a lot of time to kill, but the fact that it's empowering, it's inspiring, it's giving direction to chiropractors, I just love it.
That fact that it's innate driven, it's innate content. And yes, we may have a couple of ideas that we shoot back and forth, but the rest is just us speaking from the heart. And I think that is the reason why I get the most common feedback I get. And that feedback is, I don't know how you guys are coming up with that content, but that's exactly what I needed to hear that day, that week, that whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just because this is what's on our heart to talk about. We're just receptive to that, being a conduit of that message, right? But like Dr. Eileen Dela Cruz, wonderful, wonderful lady, amazing practice, great team, right? Took over a practice that a blue coat had started and developed and is taking that to even greater heights than where that particular blue coat had it at that time, which is awesome. We all love to see those people outpace us. But that was her comment to me today was, I always feel like what you guys are talking about, you did that just for me, or that was exactly what I needed, that particular week. And, I feel kind of guilty saying thanks for that. And, because it's not my content. It's just, that's what I felt like we were supposed to talk about that day. It's not like my brain came up with something great that we scripted out, right? And I know that you get similar types of content. I think you were telling me about somebody earlier today who was sharing with you something similar like that.
It's been almost overwhelming to me, the response. And I'm like, man, we can't have that many people listening. But the listeners that we have are engaged. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, it's been nice that, when the people are actually thanking me for the shout out.
Right.
As if I'm doing anything special. I'm excited for them. It's not, right. Don't say thank you for a thank you. Mm-hmm. You don't, some people say, I'll send them a thank you card and they say, thank you for that thank you card. Right. No, the shout out is, I'm excited for you, man. I see you, right? And maybe that's it. Maybe that for some reason it's not that they need their name in lights, but it's just to know that I see you.
Right.
And I recognize that. Right. But, I've gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of different doctors, some that just, Dr. Chris Hoffman means the world to me, that when he responds and says, that really made a difference. Or like Dr. Matt Roberts, had a text with him one night. I think it was well after office hours in there. He and I are talking, and had no clue the challenges that he was dealing with that week in his life and questions that he was asking himself. And there it was that we were filling that void through innate.
Right.
But I'll give you just a couple other ones because it's not, I know we're on to something when the quality of the person, is providing me the feedback. I mean, people that I look to them as examples. When an Henri Dalliers, okay, now that's one of the most, it's not one of, he and his wife, Roxana, are the two most genuine, considerate people I have ever met in my life. They are the most considerate human beings that I have ever experienced. And when a guy that aspires for excellence, I mean, Dalliers, you're not fooling Dalliers. That's a sharp son of a gun, right? And then he carries himself at a level of integrity and character. And when you get a text from him at night that says, I just listened to such and such podcast for the second time, and I need to quote your words, Tom, back to you. You need to read your words. And when he sent that to me that night, and he goes, innate was talking, right? That means so much to me that we're reaching a depth of innate, of the subconscious of what's being said. Because sometimes somebody will ask me, well, what episode did you cover such and such? I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, we get together and, you and I get together on Friday mornings a lot of the times. And sometimes we get together at the meetings, and I never know what or when we're going to cover, but I just know it's going to be good stuff. And then I had one more. I just had this happen to me this weekend. But when a Dave Yachter walks quality. Up, quality, I mean, Dave and his brother Dan, they're not your average cats, right? They've walked their own walk inside of chiropractic.
Yes, they have.
They know probably just as many DCs as I know, and they've impacted their lives. But when a Dave Yachter walks up to me and puts his arm around me and just says, you have a gift of inspiration. You have a gift to motivate others. God has given you something special, and you're able to reach in to the psyche of others, and you're doing well. When someone says something like that to me, that's not, hey, thanks for the podcast, it's good stuff. No, that means we're reaching somebody on a heart level, and they're recognizing it.
The irony is that they came up to me and thanked me, not for the inspiration, that stuff, but just thanked me for keeping Tom reined in and keeping from droning on and just blabbering and blabbering.
Yeah, that's good. Throw it in there.
I spoke to Dr. Eric Anderson and his wife Heidi for just a few minutes today, and they're out in Colorado, and she mentioned she, not the chiropractor, the wife mentioned the Cup podcast to me, and just the impact and how great it was and how much they look forward to it and engage with it all the time. But it's not just Doctors in Practice. I think maybe I wanted to share that with the listeners as well. We're getting feedback through our mailbag, even from students. We have students enrolled in chiropractic school who say this is part of their weekly engagement. And you had just recently looked at the mailbag from a couple of students. Were they Logan students?
Logan students.
Yeah. So folks, that mailbag at amcfamily.com, that's how you get in contact with us. And we do want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback. We especially want to hear where Tom can improve. We want to hear show ideas, or questions. And you can submit your question anonymously. If you don't want your name attached to it, you send that question over to us. You say, please don't share my name on the podcast, and we will address that question and not share the name. But if you're comfortable with that, share your name and we'll shout that out to you as well. So I'm just really, really, really impressed with the feedback that we're getting. So I just encourage the listeners to send us some messages through that mailbag service. And did you want to talk about those two
Yeah,
students?
you asked me that, and I had to pull that up on my email to find that. But just to let them know that, first of all, we need to realize, you and I need to realize that we impact, by sharing this, we're impacting the future of chiropractic.
Absolutely.
That the students are going to carry this torch. All right. So if those of you that are in school and you're listening and you're not open yet, remind me of one other one I want to cover before we wrap this up. But just realize that the students are the future, right? And to know that we're reaching you at a heart level means the world to me.
Absolutely, it does.
But we got, soon to be Dr. Irvin Durahome and Yvonne Enriquez. Just sent a message, said the Wake Up Aligned podcast is a blessing in our lives.
Awesome.
We want to thank you, Tom and Dr. McMurtry, from the bottom of our hearts for feeding our souls weekly and for helping us to grow in our journey to become chiropractors.
That's outstanding. Outstanding.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Makes it all worthwhile right there.
It does make it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
One last one, and then I'm going to say Dr. Taylor Webb. Now, used to be Dr. Taylor Peterson, but she got married just recently. But something else happened just recently, too. She just opened her practice just a few months ago and is off to a good, quick start. And, we were talking about not only just her journey and what she gets out of not only the podcast, but the meetings in general. But, we just wrapped up the FAB, and at that FAB, we realized it was 3 years ago that she came across the brand, the name AMC, now aligned, right? And she's a new beginnings, a new era, and she said, what if I hadn't have been introduced to AMC? What if I had not crossed paths with this mission just 3 years ago? Where would I be? And I assure you, I would not be living my dreams, not having the opportunity. She's still at the launch point, right?
Sure.
I mean, she's at the very beginning, but tell me, and I'll just encourage her, tell me Dr. Taylor Webb is not another Lindsey Johnston.
That's exactly what I was thinking. As I was sitting there in class today, I said, there's another Lindsey Johnston.
She's totally another Lindsey Johnston.
No doubt.
She has all the makeup of it. She has the work ethic. She has the attitude. She has the willingness to show up with the success attitude of tell me what to do.
And I'll do it.
And I'll do it. And she's got the market.
Yep.
She's probably got a better market than Dr. Lindsey Johnston.
Oh boy.
And that's a challenge. I mean, Lindsey Johnston went in there and she was not going to be.
She just took over.
She just took over. But it was not a 5-star market.
It wasn't.
Right? I mean, we would admit that. But it was a lot better market than the doctor that was before her would give it credit.
Amen.
I'll say that.
Amen.
But anyway.
Tell you one other thing that I think is very unique about Dr. Taylor Webb. She's got that potential of a Dr. Lindsey Johnston, but have you noticed she's got that heart of an Ava Carter, right? And Ava, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Ava Carter, wonderful woman, would do just about anything for anybody, but pure heart, pure love, wants the best for everybody. She's responsible for telling more people about this thing called AMC than anybody else since and before. I mean, she holds the record. I think Dr. Taylor Webb has that heart because she has that profound sense of what you saved me from had I not known about you, right?
Well, again, there we are. We're saying there's another Lindsey Johnston waiting to be created there, right? The progression that will take place, the potential.
Sure.
And then the heart with Ava is the authenticity.
Amen. Yeah.
See, that's what Dr. Taylor has.
Yeah.
There's no fake there.
There is not.
There's nothing about it that's fake. And that's why Ava resonated with so many people.
That's true.
And by the way, you say she holds a record. Ava, man, don't quote me on the exact number, but I know it's well over 100. All right. Now, I don't know if it's 120, 130, but I know she went well past 100 doctors. Now, I want you to think about that, listeners. And Dr. Taylor, I know you're listening.
Yep.
Right? You're another Ava Carter.
Name. Yep.
And whether it's 80 or 100 or 150, Dr. Taylor, your responsibility. You got the heart, right? You've got the calling on you. I'm putting an expectation. But just think about that. When you impact 100, Ava Carter has crowns and, jewels in her crown that she gets to wear in that crown. That 100 doctors, you know how many millions
of lives
that have been impacted because it was her calling to share, that willingness to give for no other reason, but she learned from my dad, Ava, you love for the sake of loving and you give for the sake of giving. And if you can, and for those of you that don't understand that lesson, if I can explain to you why I love my wife, then I don't love her. You can't explain love. You can't reason love. And if you're doing something to get a reward, to get something back, if you're providing service every week to your patients because it's a means to an end, that's not love. You don't know what authentic love is. And Ava Carter resonates with authentic. You love for the sake of loving. You give for the sake of giving. And what is loved grows. And guess what? Is Ava Carter ever going to be somebody? Let's shoot straight. Is Ava Carter ever going to be that mega business person, right?
No.
It's all about the numbers. It's all about growth.
No.
It's all about new patients and marketing and finances and growing my... But what is loved grows. Ava Carter is extremely successful in practice, owns large pieces of commercial real estate, right? But did she get it because she went after the dollar? No, she went after the heart. She followed her heart, and and she has resonated that what is loved grows.
That's right.
And Dr. Taylor, if you're out there listening, you're the next one. That's a unique combination to be compared to those two ladies.
Yep.
That is some special ground being said there. That's some special, they say, light. When you got two names, Ava Carter and Lindsey Johnson, and saying that potential is in you, there's some potential and expectation for you.
Yeah, in 30 years, she needs to be sitting here doing these podcasts for this thing called a line. Because I don't think I'm going to be doing it in 30 years, Tom.
No, who's going to do it?
Yeah, got
listeners?
Yeah.
Who's going to do it?
Step up.
Someone's going to have the calling to carry this forward. This isn't about Shannon McMurtry. This isn't the Shannon McMurtry and Tom Owen show. This is for the future of chiropractic, and who's going to carry this torch?
As always, we appreciate your time. Thank you for your feedback. Keep it coming. We're loving it. And we're so honored to be on this journey with you. Until next time. And one more thing before we go. If you're a chiropractor who's searching for a better way to build a more sustainable, low-stress practice, then you can contact us at amcfamily.com. You can schedule a discovery session, or you can access any of our free content, webinars, podcasts, and the like.